Deku, the world's greatest hero versus the entire Insomniac Spider-Man verse. This is another Twitter matchup that I thought would be pretty interesting to do a video on. When I started researching for the video, I just finished the replay on Spider-Man 2, so I have a lot of the versus feats fresh in my mind. But enough of me rambling. If you like the content, feel free to like and subscribe. As for actually scaling the Insomniac verse, I'll focus on Peter, Miles, Sandman, Kraven, and Venom primarily because they're all just kind of the top tiers of the verse and have the best scaling. This is also for the sake of time because I don't think anyone wants to listen to me go into a deep dive on how strong the Vulture is. To establish a baseline for the verse, I'm going to start with Peter's scaling in the first game. A lot of the characters that I'm not going to cover in depth should scale here, give or take. So in the first game, Electro uses Peter's body as a battering ram, the level of Smokestack. The force required for this has been calculated to a little under 4 tons of TNT or large building level, and despite this, Peter beats Electro in a 2v1 while having 14 of his bones broken. So base Peter should be in this building level range, and his durability should also be ambiguously above this as well because he basically took no damage from Electro's attack. As for speed, Peter consistently reacts to lightning in the first game, which places him in that massively hypersonic plus speed tier. So for a baseline for the verse, everyone should be around building level to massively hypersonic plus. Like I said before, everyone that I'm not going to cover super in depth should be here, like Shocker, the Sinister Six, Hammerhead, Silver Sable, and Black Cat I guess should also scale here. Yuri might be in a higher tier because it depends on when you choose to fight her if Peter is in the black or red suit or not, but Peter is most likely holding back on her, so you could put her in a higher tier if you want. I'm more comfortable saying that she's in this tier. As for the higher end characters, later on in the standalone game, Miles is able to absorb and endure the energy from the new form reactor, which is just stated to be able to vaporize all of Harlem. This feat has been calculated to approximately 750 tons of TNT, which is around 187 times stronger than Electro Smokestack feat, placing Miles solidly into the town levels of durability. And then later on at the beginning of the second game, Miles is able to crystallize chunks of Sandman using his Venom Blast, which has been calced the multi-city block. So Miles pretty heavily outscales Peter until Peter gets the black suit, which massively amps his stats. This allows Peter to fight on par with a stronger Miles who has evolved Venom powers at this point. So Peter should also be in this multi-city block range with the black suit. Side note, but Mr. Negative should also be in the same tier as Miles and Black Suit Peter. I don't know why he gets almost 200 times stronger between the first and second game for absolutely no reason, but he just does. Kraven is another character on this above base Peter tier. Early in the second game, he turbo mega stomps base Peter with no effort and later fights on par with a bloodlusted Black Suit Peter. Sandman is also above Red Suit Peter. It takes both him and Miles working together to actually defeat him, and he has feats involving his storm creation that places energy output at town level as well. Finally, there's Venom, Mr. 19 inches himself. And he should just scale above everyone previously mentioned as he consistently ragdolls both a symbiote and Peter and Miles. He also has his own multi-city block feats such as lifting up that gymnasium and football field with his tendrils. As for abilities, the Insomniac verse has some hacks like Mr. Negative's mind hacks and power nullification, Scorpion's venoms, and a possible BFR from Black Cat's magic staff. Okay, now that I know with the Insomniac scaling, I can get onto Deku, which is probably going to take way less time because I only have to scale one guy instead of an entire verse. Deku's AP, All Might in the first chapter, is able to punch so hard it creates a tornado and changes the weather. This feat has been placed at 2.41 gigatons of TNT or large mountain level. All Might then states he's 60 times weaker than he was in his prime, multiplying the previous count. This brings him up to 144 gigatons of TNT or large island level. A couple hundred chapters later, Shigaraki states that he has strength on par with Prime All Might, and Deku is able to hold back and damage a stronger Shigaraki than the one that made this statement. So Deku should also be in this large island range. As for Deku's speed, Nagant's bullets have been calculated to be massively hypersonic plus the sub-relativistic, and Deku is able to react to and outspeed the bullet. His speed should also just be way higher with gear shift because he went from relative a little faster than Shigaraki to completely blitzing him with gear shift. As for Deku's abilities, he has Danger Sense, which is basically just Spider Sense, Gear Shift, which allows him to speed himself up and forcibly slow down his enemies. He can create Smoke Stream and Venom-like tendrils with Black Whip, and he has flight capabilities. He can also store kinetic energy and spend it in bursts using Fajin. As for the actual fight, stats are less of a problem and more the numbers for Deku, seeing how in a 1v1 he'd one-shot anyone here. Thing is, he has massive AoE attacks to clear out all the fodder and deal with any of the stronger fighters. As for Mr. Negative, I don't see him touching Deku to bring him into his illusion illusion world, and even if he did, the vestiges might just kick him out of Deku's brain. As for his power negation, it only affected Miles' energy powers and left his strength alone, so it might turn off Black Whip and his other abilities, but he'd still get one shot regardless. As for Black Cat's BFR, it's another situation where she wouldn't be able to tag him with it in the first place, and even if she did and sent him to the Arctic, Deku can turn himself into a living fighter jet, so he'd just come back. And for Scorpion's poison, yeah, unironically, if Deku got tagged by this, he'd actually just be fried, but like, Scorpion has to tag him with it. I don't think it's a leap in logic to say that Scorpion would never even get close to Deku. The character I think would be the biggest problem for Deku would probably be Sandman because of the way his body works, but Deku's really smart and should figure out the guy made out of sand's weakness is water and then chuck a water tank at him at Mach speed. Even if it took a while to figure out, or there's no water tanks where they're fighting, All Might in the first chapter punched someone so hard it started raining, so I'd imagine Deku could do the same thing, so either way, Sandman's getting dealt with. All in all, this video was fun to make and research, but at the end of the day, Deku solos the Insomniac verse.